everyone. I wanted to talk today a little bit about having difficult conversations about subjects where people know that they're likely to disagree. Now, people will often try to avoid having such conversations as a way of not developing conflict. But it's important to understand that often these conversations themselves is the important part, not so much the reaching the same opinion at the end or convincing somebody, but really learning how to have a respectful conversation about important things. So here's some tips that might help. One thing that you want to do is think about the fact that very often people listen to respond instead of listening to understand. Within the first few seconds of hearing what your opponent has to say, you start to think about what you're going to respond. Instead, what I encourage you to do is actually listen. Listen to the end, even if that means taking a second after they're done talking and asking them to give you a minute to formulate your response. Because this way, once they feel understood by you, they're a lot more willing to listen to what you have to say. And they will also more likely listen to understand. The way you can show them that you've listened to understand is by restating what they had said and getting confirmation that you have understood them correctly. That doesn't mean you agree with them. That doesn't mean that you support what they're saying. That just means that you actually understood what they were trying to convey. If you didn't understand it correctly, even if you thought you did, allow them the chance to correct you and explain to you what it is that they in fact meant. Do this back and forth until you actually understand each other. It may seem tedious and it may seem silly or childish, but it is the only way to make sure that you're actually talking about the same things. The second tip is when people get really passionate about the topic, it seems like the more passionate they are, the better they can convey their idea. Unfortunately, that is often not how you work. What happens when somebody gets very excited is their blood pressure rises and their pulse rises. And once your pulse rises above a certain amount, usually it's 100 beats a minute, you're no longer able to process information in the same way because now your body has gone into a fight or flight response because it thinks there's a crisis. Even if nothing is actually happening in the world, that's how your body is perceiving it. So it is okay to take a break and say, I need to be able to calm down so that I can listen and respond in the best way possible, rather than just continuing to get louder and louder in the conversation. Because at that point, nobody's listening and nobody's getting anywhere, right? So what you want to do is say, let's take a break, but definitely tell the other person when you will reconvene to continue this conversation, because otherwise they just feel dismissed and the conversation feels abandoned. So if you say, let's take a break and come back in a half hour, let's use that time to calm down so we can come back to this better, you're a lot more likely to have a productive conversation when you come back. If one person requests to take a break, honor that. Take at least a 20-minute break because that's how long it takes your body to calm down. And during those 20 minutes, don't plot your revenge, don't plot your response. Just allow your body to actually calm down. Maybe do some deep breathing, maybe distract yourself with something else, but don't continue to spin it around in your head. Remember, the point of these interactions is to continue to have these conversations and to get better at having them. Because the only way that change can happen is if people can actually talk instead of scream at each other. And this applies to any situation, any conversation where the topic is sensitive and people have a difference of opinion. But the more that we can learn to actually listen and understand each other, the more productive these conversations will get. I hope that these have been helpful.